So we're now on to episode 22, continuing on with the homestays. Starting with Jenna and Zoe, we saw Jenna go to Zoe's homestay this time round. Everything started off great. And then we saw this pickled rat. Yes, a pickled rat. Sitting on Zoe's counter, kitchen counter, by the way, kitchen counter. I thought to myself, what the hell is this? You put a dirty little rodent on a kitchen counter. And at the same time, you're making a joke of it, like it's funny. Oh, no. I was with Jenna on this one. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Jenna, Zoe, I don't know what you're playing at, but that wasn't funny. It wasn't funny at all. And why would you keep a pickled rat? Oh, I can't. I don't know what to say. But anyway, moving on from that, we saw a nice jar of cookies that were bought for Jenna, vegan cookies. So that was a nice little present to receive as a welcome gift for her. And then we saw them on the bed talking, chatting. Jenna was quite comfortable being at her place. She said she could see herself there. I'm sure that's what she said. But at the same time, we know with Zoe, she doesn't want to move anywhere. She's so stuck in her ways, she's not moving. That's virtually what she said. Because we heard her say later, when going to the parents' place for lunch, that she's not willing to move. Jenna looks like she's quite flexible. She'd consider it. Let's put it that way. She'd consider it if she could find somebody to run her shop. That's what she said. But Zoe is virtually just a no. She's not going anywhere. And her mum was trying to say to her, you two need to find a way of this long distance relationship. If it's going to work, you need to make plans. Because Zoe wasn't even thinking about what's going to happen after the experiment. She wasn't thinking that far. She's thinking, we'll just see how it goes. That was her attitude. But her mum's saying, no, you need to make a plan. Otherwise, you two will just dwindle and move apart. That's virtually what she was saying. Yeah. So, that's something for her to consider. Whether she will or not, I don't know. And then the subject came on to kids. I think it's her sister that asked Jenna whether she wanted children. Because Zoe does. We know Zoe definitely does want children. But Jenna's still in two minds. But we knew from the beginning that Jenna didn't want children. She said that she didn't want children. So I can't see where this is going. But when the sister asked her the question, she did turn around and say it's something she would consider. But the only reason why she hasn't considered it is because she hasn't been in any sort of long-term relationship for it to be a subject to talk about. That's actually what she was saying.
I feel like there's a sudden pressure to decide, do I want kids or do I not, like for definite. But I just feel like that's something that will come naturally.
I'm not too sure I believe that. I think naturally we know in our teens, late teens, whether we want children. That's the way I look at it. I think when you hit your 30s, you already know that you don't want kids. And how old is she again? I can't remember. I'm sure she's 30, somewhere around there. And she's already made up her mind she doesn't want children. So why would you change it now? That's questionable to me. That's questionable.
I genuinely don't know if this is something that me and Zoe are going to be able to get past. And if Zoe wants to have that conversation sooner rather than later, then I don't know if I'm going to be able to give her the answer that she wants.
As far as I'm concerned, her mind is already made up. I don't see where this relationship is going. They both want different things. Zoe's not moving. You're not really going to move either. And Zoe wants children and you do not want children. So why are we here? Moving on to our next couple, Shanita and Jordan. It was Jordan going to Shanita's place and they talked about, again, the dinner party and that love situation about moving in together, if they were to move in together. And I actually got it wrong. I thought it was because Shanita hadn't told him that she loved him that he wasn't ready for them to move in together. But it was the other way around. It was actually him not being in love with her. And it's like, oh, now that puts a little different twist on it. Now I can understand how she sort of backed off a little bit in regards to what he had said. Because now she's thinking, I'm falling for you. But at the same time, because you've just said that, I need to take a few steps back because I thought we were on the same page. But it looks like we're not. So I need to think about my heart and not rushing this and taking it at a slower pace. I trust that he's not going to make a fool of me. But at the same time, I just need to step back and take each day as it comes. And that's where her head's at now. So that was the conversation that took place in the back garden. And then we saw the mum come round later on. And again, the same topic was brought up. So, yeah, so it was all rehashed all over again. But we then also saw Shanita and her mum have a moment to themselves. And this is part of the chat they were having.
Because I don't want to then say fall in love with him and then he's like, you know what, this ain't for me. As well,
but do you trust that what he's saying is sincere?
I'd like to think so, yes.
Her mum was making her question herself. Yes, she was.
I think I could tell maybe if he wasn't.
Could you though?
Alright, now I don't know. Speaking to my mum does bring it home and that maybe I do need to protect myself.
Let's not get carried away now. It may look and sound like a fairy tale, but we still need to protect ourselves, just like Mummy said. Her mum then asked her whether she was falling for Jordan. And of course we saw Shanita blushing. She didn't quite answer the question, but her blushes said it for her. But she continued to say that she's going to take a few steps back and take things slow. So we're just going to have to wait and see where they go. But I still have my fingers crossed for these two because I feel they're going to make it. The next couple we saw were Thomas and Adrian. And it was Thomas's turn to invite Adrian to his home in Liverpool. But we didn't see his home. We saw Adrian and Thomas meet up with two of Thomas's girlfriends. Yeah. I'm not too sure how to sort of take these ladies, but they were backing Thomas in a way as in to say his relationships of the past have been very sexually based. And for Adrian and Thomas not to have sex already, as far as they're concerned, that was a red flag for them. Yeah, so everything around that conversation was all about the sex side of things. You saw Adrian trying to defend himself by saying sex isn't the be all and end all. We do have we have a connection is how I'm going to say. I'm going to say a connection. They weren't taking any of that. They weren't going to fall for any of that. As far as they're concerned, you can see it in their face that they knew deep down that Adrian wasn't for Thomas. And even Thomas even piped up saying something similar. Yeah, I need sex. For me to know whether there's a connection, I need sex. So all of a sudden, we're seeing the downturn of this relationship with Adrian visiting Thomas. Yeah, when it was the other way around, everything looked chilled at Adrian's homestay. But reverse it now, and we're now at Thomas's. We're seeing a whole different light on this relationship, and it's not going too well from what we're seeing here. So with that conversation going down, you can see they're now thinking, what next? Where do we go from here? Exactly, where do we go from here? Well, we later saw Thomas and Adrian meet up with Thomas's parents in some restaurant of some sort. And from what I gather, earlier when Thomas was talking to the camera, he mentioned about his mum not liking Adrian. I thought, that's a first. That's the first we're hearing this. I never knew that information. Well, it looks like she doesn't like Adrian. Anyway, so we saw these guys sitting down in the restaurant, and then the mum was very much, she didn't waste time to sort of ask the questions she needed to ask. And this is how the conversation went.
Is it a friendship or is it a relationship? So let me ask you this, then, do you fancy Tom? What do you feel when you look at him? Whoa.
Oh, sometimes I think, oh gosh, I just want to kiss him, just want to squeeze him.
But you're not answering, do you fancy him?
Yes, that's exactly how the conversation went. It was one question after the next, after the next. She wasn't getting the answers she wanted. She's saying that Thomas is very tactile normally, and what she sees here is not a relationship. Is this a friendship? That's what she's asking. Is it a friendship? This is not normal for Thomas. She can see her baby is not the same person. He looks very, subdued. He's not being himself. She's thinking, what's happened here? And you can see that Thomas and his mum are very, very much alike. I could tell. And there was another point where the mum was talking about Thomas's rages and rants that he has, and that the parents are his rock. And I thought to myself, rages and rants? What are you talking about? And you accept that behaviour? And you think that's normal? Oh, I don't know about that. That there was a red flag for me. I thought, nah, we already see the tantrums he has when he's at the dinner parties. And now the way the mum's talking, she finds that acceptable for him to be that way. No, he needs therapy. Thomas needs therapy. And then we saw Adrian crying because of that situation, because he found it hard to sort of work him out at the beginning and trying to find the balance with Thomas. And I don't know why he was crying, to be honest. He just felt like he needed to be his support. No, you don't, Adrian. You don't need to be his support. He needs his own therapy. You're not going to be his mattress for him to land on every single time. No, we're not doing that. I don't know. I can't see where this is going. Well, I can see where this is going. This is not going to work.
Do I think Adrian fancies you?
No.
No. And to me, it's blatantly obvious.
I'm actually going to have to agree with the mother on this one. Even though Adrian's a nice guy, I just can't see the connection with these two.
Right now, in this moment, I really can't see myself getting to final vows after my parents' advice. They knew me better than anyone. It's really difficult.
You know, it's John.
Well, if Mummy says it's done, it's done. Moving on. Our next couple were April and George. We saw these two walking along one of the bridges in London, talking about life, talking about George not seeing himself living here, talking about the dirty water of the Thames and the big buildings. He wasn't liking it. It wasn't his thing. But April, as we know, loves it here. But she was saying at the same time where she lives is quite quiet. So she has a mix of the city with a touch of the quiet life. So I still really can't see how this is going to work. If no one wants to move, I really can't see it. And the long distance thing, again, I can't see it. It may work for a month and then it's going to dwindle off. I'll give it 3 months maximum, if that. Anyway, we did see later on, it was April's best man at the wedding that they met up with later on in one bar. So they all greeted each other. They sat down and you saw them talking about the whole process of what they've been through, the good, the bad and the ugly. And then you saw George disappear and it was just April and Jose by themselves now. So they had a moment together and virtually Jose was saying that April needs to think about herself more. Don't let it be about you doing all the work, which I have to agree. I don't agree with everything that April does, but in this respect, it's not all about her having to drop everything to come and see him. They both have lives. He's got his family, he's got his work, he's got his 4 kids. So I know his calendar is probably very busy, with all that happening. But it doesn't mean that April doesn't have a life either. That she must drop everything to come and see you. It's not going to work one way. It has to be the two of you working together. We then see April bring up the trust issue that they have. That George has, let's put it that way. And Jose turns around and says to her, that's not your problem. That's his problem. You just be you. He needs to resolve his own issues. That's really what he said. And he's so right. It's not her issue. He then asked her whether George is the one. Do you think he's the one? And she turned around and says, yeah, I think he is the one. Because I've never felt this way about any other guy before. So these feelings, yeah, I think he's the one. That's what she said. I'm still disbelieving of this relationship. There's too many red flags for me. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Next we had Sophie and Jonathan. It was Jonathan going to stay with Sophie in her family home, which is in Cheltenham. So not in her Manchester apartment, wherever she lives. So she wanted him to see how she grew up. That's really what that was about. And you saw them playing tennis with the parents. Yeah, so that was a nice little, I don't know, icebreaker, I'm going to say. But you can see Jonathan felt a bit intimidated by the dad. Yeah. That was funny. In a way, I thought, yeah, serve yourself right. Serve yourself right. So it's not all about you this time. It's not all about you. So you saw Sophie talk with her father after the tennis match. And this is how part of the conversation went.
When you decide to have children and settle down, you're going to need somewhere to settle down. You're going to need somewhere to bring the money in.
Yeah.
You know, and keep you in the style you're accustomed to. And pay for all this.
Her dad definitely has a point. He has a point. She thinks with romance and emotions, whilst he thinks logics. The next scene we saw with them all together was at breakfast, where Jonathan talks about the situation with the horse leg comment. Yeah, we're there again.
So I did say that I wouldn't personally want my wife or girlfriend to have legs like a horse. That's what I said.
Poor Sophie looked like a little girl looking up at her dad, looking for approval. Dear.
It's an opinion, do you know what I mean? And it was just personally my thing, but obviously if people are taking offence to that, then I've got to recognise that.
Did you see the parents' body language though? Arm folded, on the defence. They weren't happy. They were not happy.
I've always been a work to live. I've said this for a while. I'd happily be a stay-at-home husband.
Who said I want to stay at home
A bit of
husband?
decorating, a bit of cooking.
I was planning on having kids and not doing anything anymore.
And the mum's face when looking at Sophie was one of dread and worry. Not for my daughter, she's saying. No, not for my daughter.
You need bloody money, lad. You know that coming from Yorkshire.
Well, the dad's response to that wasn't great. His answer was, if you want all of these things, you need bloody money, lad. Coming from Yorkshire. As we saw, Daddy wasn't playing. And Mummy would just back up Daddy. Yeah. Overall, the dad wasn't really that impressed. He likes him as a person, but he's not good enough for his daughter. Yeah, he wasn't the right fit. That's what he said. So Sophie has a decision to make. Is Jonathan the one? Or is he not? Well, we're just going to have to wait and see, won't we? Moving on. Lastly, we have Keisha and Kwame. I left them to last because if I started off with him, I wouldn't have been able to finish this video. Oh, he just rubs me up the wrong way. I don't even know where to begin. He frustrates me so much. I just want to slap the talk out of his mouth. And I'm not one for violence, but but I just want to slap the talk out of his mouth. Anyway, enough about me. Back to Keisha and Kwame. So we saw Keisha take Kwame to her place. Yes, she took him to her place. Not that he did the same for her. No, she took him to her place. He got a grand welcoming to her place. She had nothing to hide. Nothing whatsoever to hide. So he's looking around her pad thinking, whoa, this is a pretty place. This girl has done well for herself. That's what he's thinking. But he couldn't show her the same. He couldn't show her the same hospitality. Because he's a liar. Just as Thomas would say. He's a liar. Anyway, we then start seeing Keisha talk about her story. And this is how the story went.
Okay, so I've been here for about a year. Although prior to that, I grew up with my mum in northwest London. As you know, I got pregnant when I was 15 with my first child.
Hey!
15, yeah.
Already he's starting to irritate me. The laughing. I'm not feeling that. And at the same time, she already said, you've already heard the story. So she's only just repeating herself. Why is he playing like it's the first time he's heard this? With all the laughing and the gestures behind it. Oh, I can't stand him. I can't. I just can't. Carrying on.
One room, cooker right next to my bed. Let me continue, yeah?
Jesus.
This is very classic of Kwame, killing the vibe with words that he said.
I just want to slap the grin off his face. Ugh. Oh, he so irritates me. Oh, God.
As you know, I have a body contouring clinic. Now, I'm into my body and being a curvy lady and, and I like to support other ladies to be proud of their bodies.
Can I buy muscles there so I don't have to go to the gym?
I have no words. I just have no words. He's a despicable human being. Despicable. I can't stand him. Keisha, one word of advice I'm going to say to you. Leave. Run. Run as fast as you can. Run. Don't you dare look back. Don't you dare. This guy is wasting your time. He's not looking for a relationship. This is jokes for him. He's playing you for a fool. I just want to cuss. 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 I just want to say some blasphemous words right now. I really, really do. You're flogging a dead horse. You're flogging a dead horse. Leave him. Leave him. Oh, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. I've got nothing more to say. I'm upset now. I'm upset. So this is where I'm going to leave it. If you like what you heard, please like, comment and subscribe. Till next time.